All right, we're live. Welcome everybody back to a CanJS Hangout. With me is Mihael. He's a BITOVI team member, and he is going to be talking about a file upload component. Mihael, do you want to?
Yeah, so basically I will show how to wrap jQuery upload library, and we are uploading files to one endpoint, basically to emulate how you would upload it directly to S3. And after the upload is done, we save the metadata to the application. So I'll show you how to do it with can.Component and jQuery file upload.
Cool, thank you. And also a big thank you to Tom Blake from Brightroll. He's from outside BITOVI, and he's going to be talking about how to wrap up widgets with can.Component.
Yeah, so I'm just going to show a couple of the things that we use at Brightroll and how we use can.Components to put them together.
Yeah, and thank you so much for kind of coming out and joining us on these. So the theme, as hopefully you guys can see for today, is how to wrap components. And I'll be finishing off with how to wrap a jQuery UI widget, a tooltip, with CanViewTag. So make it so that you can just add a tooltip attribute, and a tooltip will show up. Also, the Q&A app is running, so if there's any questions throughout this, just please post on that. And on the Google Plus page, we have a sign up, so you can be notified when these community hangouts are taking place. And we'll get started with Mihael.
Okay, first I will show a demo of the component, just basic behavior. So I prepared some files. So it works with the drag and drop. You can remove the files, select some files. There is a progress bar for everything, and that's basically it's nothing much, but it has some interesting implementations. So here's a presentation. So basically how it works, first it uploads the file to one endpoint, gets the metadata from the file, and after that it will save that metadata to file metadata endpoint. In the file upload component, we have buttons that can either cancel an upload if it's still running, or they can delete the file. So UI is the same for both actions, and I will show you how we wire it up here. And
Mihael, can you go back to your previous present, like 2 slides?
Yes, this one.
Yeah. So this is. Can you go over this again real quick? So it makes.
We upload the file to file upload endpoint. Mm-hmm. When it's done, we get the metadata from there and from the jQuery file upload library, and then we make another request that saves the metadata and on the metadata endpoint.
And this is because you're using like a secondary service to actually house the data, and you're using your own file server to keep the metadata.
Yeah. So basically, jQuery file upload allows you to use iframe transport that can upload directly to S3, so it never touches your server, which is great for performance. But that's kind of not really intuitive how to wire it up, so that's why I use that example. So most of the stuff is wired with the events object. That's basically a can control instance. So we use it to know when the user select the file to upload, and when upload is done, what's the progress. And when we remove the file by clicking on one of these buttons, we also handle it there, so we either abort the upload or delete the file. So I have a code here. Let's go quickly through it. So basically, we create a file model. It just has a create and destroy endpoints. So for when we upload, we will call the create, so to save the metadata. We have some fixtures here. We set the ID and is processed true. We use that in template to hide or show the progress bar, and we have a delete endpoint. So it's pretty simple. So
Kyle, just real quick on your fixture there.
Yeah.
You got to be careful if you're changing the data in place like that. I'm not sure jQuery extends it and like creates a fresh copy.
Yeah, that's true. But it works for this example. So.
Yeah.
So We have files, which is on can list. It's an empty array first, and we have remove upload, which is called when you click on a button. All it does is it finds the index and it removes it from the list, and we actually delete it or abort the upload from the events from the control instance. So the helper doesn't matter; it just formats the size. So here is the interesting part. So we use the inserted event, and when uploader component is inserted into DOM tree, file upload is initialized. We also use drop zone attribute that says that we can drag and drop on the uploader element, and it will upload correctly. And it uploads to _upload service. This service is actually emulated in the middleware for Grunt Server Connect because it's not using Ajax to upload. So all it does is just takes the file and returns the empty JSON object, nothing more. Okay, so when user adds a file, we create a new instance of the file model, and here we have the upload ID, which we should probably use some more robust way of generating an ID. And we use this so we can grab the abort function for the uploader. So here when user creates an upload, we immediately submit it, and we get the abort function and put it into the object. So if user cancels the upload, we can easily abort it.
Hey, Mihael. So what is data? This is just
that's something returned from the jQuery file upload library.
Okay.
So that's their object, and we add expanded here. That's instance of the file model. So basically, what we do here is we just save a reference to the abort function, so we can easily get it and abort the upload. So file upload progress, it's pretty straightforward. We just update the progress attribute, and it will update in the view. And here, when it's done, we remove the upload ID and we save the metadata, and we just remove the reference for the abort function. And when so here in the scope, I said we only remove it from the list. So we don't handle any deletion or aborting in the scope because we don't have handling to the abort functions. So here, when something is removed from the files array, we will check if it has the upload ID, and if it does, we will abort it. Otherwise, we will just call the file destroy. And here we have we prevent some default events, so browser wouldn't upload.
Can you explain that to me? This scope files remove. So you're listening to when a file is removed. What causes a file to be removed?
Clicking. When a user clicks on the button.
Oh, you have a can click wired to that.
Remove upload. So it will just
okay.
Yeah, and remove upload will just remove it from the list, and we listen to the changes on the list, so we can either abort the upload or destroy the file. So that's the.
What does destroying the file do?
So it would delete the metadata and probably would have some kind of cleanup.
Okay, so basically, is there a potential race condition where like the server has saved it and the response is like kind of in transit, but you haven't received it yet? Probably not a likely case.
I'm not sure because it doesn't. I don't think it. Yeah, maybe it's possible, but it will probably be very hard to target it.
Okay, so this is basically just when the user is clicking remove.
Yeah, it will either remove, so it will call either destroy on the model, or it will abort the upload if upload is running. So
if we had like a list, if we expanded our define plugin to support kind of when items are removed from the list, like the same way you can hook into when an attribute is removed on a normal object, would you have moved this code into there? I think that would be.
I don't think so, because this is mixed bag of working with scope and working with jQuery file uploads. data. So that's why I put it in the events. So,
yeah, this is like a side effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. Okay.
So that's basically it. Just has in the template, it just shows the list of the files, and the file is not processed, it will show the progress bar, and you can remove the upload. So it's pretty simple, but I think it's interesting because it handles these two cases that are behaving the same in the UI, but do completely different stuff in the scope.
What does it look like in the template again, where you just kind of set it up?
Yeah, so it just goes through the old files, and here.
But where's the outer wrapping component?
Meaning here. This is we could probably share the files list if you would have multiple uploader components, but there was no need for this here, so it just embeds the component in the DOM.
Okay, so if you were to expand this into like making it usable for other people, you would want to like make it so it could take certain attributes, like where to upload to and things like that.
Yeah, that's probably a good way. I'm not sure what's the best way to handle it. Maybe as an attribute, or just maybe use a form and get the form action URL or something like that. But yeah, that could be expanded with the attribute where the file should be uploaded. That's the only thing I think should be customized.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. That's it for me.
Great work.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, cool. Tom, do you want to share yours with us?
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. That's a nice feature. So I should just share my screen, I guess.
Actually, real quick, Tom, do you want to say what you do at Brightroll and
Sure.
kind of what you guys are working on?
So yeah, I'm a UI engineer at Brightroll. So we use CanJS for a single-page app. At Brightroll, we are a video ad platform for video ads on the internet, and so we have an admin console that lets people manage ad campaigns, and it shows various like data and analytics about ad campaigns, and lets you manage upload files and that sort of stuff. And we've had this in production for about a little over a year now using CanJS. Around the time that CanJS 2 came out, we upgraded to 2, but we're not quite on the latest at the moment. So let me get this going.
Yeah, while you're getting it set up, Tom mentioned to me prior to us starting this that there was some kind of upgrade issues between like 2.0 and 2.1. If anybody out there is watching this and also having similar problems, we are trying to be semantic versioning compatible, so no like exposed API should break between any 2.0 version. So if you are finding that, let us know. Or if you're using something that is not documented but would like to harden it and make it so it is documented, also let us know too, because we can we can facilitate that. I think Tom once asked me if we can make can reading expose that, and I think that's a good idea. I just think there's some thought to how it has to happen first, but that's absolutely something we should work on.
Yeah, one of the things that we ended up doing was implementing like a lightweight list that doesn't do quite as much listening as aggressively, so that we could manage really large sets of data, and that required using reading.
I'll be really interested to know what happens when you guys go to 2.12, which is now much faster. It doesn't produce change events unless you're explicitly listening to a change event. Bubbling doesn't happen in 2.1 unless you're like explicitly listening for bubbling. So there should be a lot of performance improvements.
So can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Just wanted to mention that Mike, who's on questions, just said he wants to, I think, do expose can reading as well.
Oh, nice.
Popular.
So yeah, this is an example of something that our UX team came up with. It's just a nice little toggle button. And this is done entirely in CSS. And here's the HTML around it. So it's basically just we're showing the label, we're not showing the checkbox. And then because it's a label tied to a checkbox, it toggles the value of the checkbox. And so just converted this into a mustache template. Oops. There we go. And so, see, it's really similar. We have ID being passed in from the
Tom,
component.
if you can, maybe increase the font size just a
Sure.
little bit.
Apparently I can't do that there. Not sure actually how to do that very quickly.
If you can't, it's don't worry about it because you can actually read it. It's just people
Okay.
have to.
I will know that for the future.
Yeah.
We've got the values for yes and no being passed in on the component, and then we use a checked helper, which is defined that just binds the checks attribute on an input to a value. And so then we've got the component being defined. Just call it a toggle. The tag is toggle. Here, let me open up the file where we use it. So the actual declaration of this, we just pass in secure enabled, which is a compute from the controller that's calling this template, and we just call the tag toggle. And that's pretty much all there is to use it, so that's really nice. And then the definition is really simple. One thing we're doing here that I don't think we're going to have to do in the future is we wanted to have both user-supplied strings and default values. And so we had to put the @ symbols here in the scope and then override them if the user provides, or if the user doesn't provide a value, set the defaults.
With Stash,
same syntax for both.
Yeah, with Stash, you no longer have to you no longer have to do that. You can just use the define plugin to provide defaults, and to read just the plain attribute value that happens by default in Stash, so you don't need that little @ symbol by your properties anymore.
Yeah, that'll be good. So it's just really simple. We pass in an ID, which just is the CanC ID, so that every toggle has a unique ID. And that's pretty much all there is to it. And it generates that nice toggle, and that's bound to the compute that we pass in. And so,
what was that ID used for? I didn't.
That is because we don't have the input inside the label, and the label's doing all the work, so we just have the ID. Let me bring up the. We just have the ID and the label together.
Gotcha.
So clicking on the label toggles the checkbox. So yeah, so here's the live version. This just changes a value on our model, and then that updates the state of the save button, whether we can preview, and this little secure icon down there, all just using live binding.
Awesome. Very cool. So you guys have like a big collection of little widgets in a demo page?
Oh, you mean that? Yeah, this actually doesn't use CanJS. This is just our UX team puts things together that we can then use, and we end up building templates out of. It's a really great tool. Maybe next iteration we can get building templates.
Can you say that again? Your voice got all digitized.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that maybe in the next iteration we can get them building mustache templates for us.
Oh, cool.
And then, so we do this with some more complicated things too, that I'm not sure I can actually demo the whole thing, but like for instance, we wanted to use the ACE editor, which I believe was made by GitHub. And so we ended up using can get script just to load it because it uses require.js internally, I guess. We're probably going to be looking forward to the new version of Steel that has multiple ways of requiring things, support for different kinds of modules. But again, the code for this is really simple. In this case, we didn't end up using a template because we just call ace.edit with the element, which is just our text editor tag. And then we bind it up with a few different things that come from the editor. There really isn't much to it at all.
Where's something that like comes from the editor, like you're listening to when the editor changes and updating? Oh, so you're keeping like a value cross-bound to the editor's value,
Yep.
It seems like.
So we just pass in a couple computes to store the things that come out of the editor. And so again, the usage is really short in our code.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. So is that it?
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Cool. Great. That was cool. Very cool. Do you have? Can you show us the editor? Is there a?
No, I don't think I have something that I can pull that up.
Okay. No worries. Maybe when I'm done with mine, just show us what the Ace editor looks like, because I feel like I've seen it, but I actually like wouldn't recognize it.
Oh yeah, here I'll actually bring up the official version. This is just like a code editor you can use on the web. Has all kinds of neat features and like syntax highlighting and stuff like that.
Awesome. Is that what like whatever, not what's the JS bin? Is that what JS bin uses? Do you know?
I don't know.
I think they use the Code Mirror editor.
Code Mirror.
Yeah, which is also pretty easy to integrate. I was playing with it.
Cool. Awesome.
Really useful in a few places.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to go through. I'll go next, and mine is about how to use CanView Atter to wire up jQueryUI's tooltip. So you just have to put a tooltip attribute on any elements, and a jQueryUI tooltip will show up. So let me share my screen. And is it working?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then just again, guys, pause me anytime anything really doesn't make sense, because I speak fast, and it probably means it won't make sense for somebody else. Oh, I thought I had started a new one. Let me start a new one. Okay, so I'm going to do this all in JSBin. I have JSBin right now just set up with jQuery 2.0, CanJS 2.1, and it's also loading Stash. And all my JavaScript is doing right now is taking what's in this app script element and treating it like a template and rendering that into out. What I want is to be able to have a button, maybe a save button, like that, where if I just put tooltip equals, save it, and mouse over, I want jQueryUI to show a tooltip. CanJS provides can.view.tag, and that allows you to set up a hook for whenever an attribute is found in a template. So I want a hook for whenever tooltip is found, and you provided a callback function that handles the behavior of whenever tooltip is found. So this gets called back with the element the attribute is found on and some attribute data, which this attribute data just contains things like the scope, in terms of like the mustache scope, where that attribute was found. So you can kind of read data from the scope if you want to. So what I'm going to do to wire up a tooltip, just a basic one, is just call $.tooltip on my element, and I'm going to pass the content, like jQuery to configure a tooltip, you need to pass it content, which is the content to show for the tooltip. So I'm going to pass content, and I'm going to get the elements tooltip. And then I also have to provide I'm going to take a little sneak peek at mine because I also forgot what it is, the items. So jQuery, when you add UI, when you add a tooltip to an element, it'll also add a tooltip to kind of like everything inside of it. We want to limit it to only creating tooltip instances really on the current object, and anything else with like tooltip as an attribute. So to do that, you write items tooltip. So with that, I should be able to, hold on, let me make sure I got everything going and check my console. With that, I should be able to mouse over this and have it work, but it is not working. CanView Enter, tooltip, content, items. Let me check mine, that was working. Tooltip, content. All right, I'm just going to copy this and cheat and see what I did wrong.
Did you include jQuery UI library?
Oh, I forgot to add jQuery UI. Thank you, Mihael. Okay, I got to add jQuery UI's style sheet and JavaScript code. Okay, so now
instead of CanView Enter.
Thank you. All right, good call. Okay, now it works, so I can see to save it. Let me hide the console. So that's good, but what I'd really want to be able to do is make it so that if someone were to change what the tooltip says, like if I change it after a little bit, let's say after 2 seconds, I change the attribute of my button. Let me give it an ID. Of the save button, I change its tooltip attribute from save it to save it. Now, it's still going to say save it because we need to make our CanView Enter handle when the attribute changes. To do that, I can listen to when the elements, I can bind to its attribute event. And the attribute event gets called back with an event object, and that has the attribute that changed on it as attribute name. So I could see, hey, if the tooltip attribute changed, well, I'm going to update the tooltip data. And with jQuery UI, if you just call on something, like if you call tooltip again on something that has already had a tooltip, it just updates that widget instead of recreating it. So I can do that like this in here. So with that, it should, let me make sure it's saving right. Let me make sure I'm getting the event too. (1001), 1002. Okay, I'm not getting the attribute. Let me, oh, it's attributes event. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's attributes event, not attribute. Now the tooltip is changed. And now it says, oh, you saw it even change in real time. That was kind of cool. So let me make another little change so we can see that again. Okay, so it's saving, save it to save it. Okay. And the other thing you might want to do is, which is one other cool thing that you can do, is because jQuery or CanJS is so integrated with jQuery that you can actually listen to the events that jQuery UI produces on this button, but you can use the in-template event handlers. What I mean by that is, let's say when the tooltip is closed, I might want to call some method. I want to call tooltip closed. And maybe when the tooltip is open, I'll just write open. And I'll bring back my console because I'll need to see that. Okay, so what I can do is on my button here, I can write the can dash. What jQuery expects is a tooltip close and tooltip open event. So I can write can tooltip close as an event. And Chrome just froze on me. Oh, that's great. Let me try opening up this and another one. Okay, there. That one just froze for some reason. Is it working? I'll kill that. Are you guys still with me, by the way? Mihael, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, good. So on tooltip close, wow, I think by adding that equal sign, I must be breaking JS bin. Because maybe I can paste it all at once, and maybe it'll let me do it then. So I'm going to paste tooltip closed in quote. Let's see if that tricks it into letting me do what I want it to do. Okay, so let's see here. See? Okay, so there. You guys can hopefully see. So when the tooltip hides itself, it's going to fire off, jQuery UI widget is going to fire off a tooltip close event, but we can actually pick that up here and use that to call methods in Mustache's scope. We can use it to call the tooltip closed method, which I think is pretty cool. And after seeing this, I kind of thought, oh, it might be cool to produce our own events on the elements, on component elements, not only change scope, but also produce events on our components to make them kind of listenable in the same way. Not all, most of the times you want, kind of binding of data, but there's a few times you probably don't. And this would allow that. So you can have actions that you wire up other behaviors to. Okay, so this is nice, but let's say I wanted to have a button that I could, well, let's say I change this template to also pass, instead of these callback methods, some let's say, cancel text, or cancel tooltip text. That looked like that. And I wanted a secondary button that would have, instead of all of this, it's tooltip. This would be cancel. It's tooltip. We wanted it to be able to read the cancel tooltip text in the scope. To do this, I'm gonna get rid of this for right now, because you guys should be able to see how to bring that back. I just want to kind of simplify the example. to do that, you kind of have to do your own little bit of processing of the kind of the value of the attribute. Although we do want to kind of create some helpers that make this whole process a little bit easier. But I would get the value of the attribute, and I would just simply check if the value starts with curly braces. I would probably check the end curly brace too. But if it starts with that, then instead I want the value to be the I want to read from the scope. I want to take the value, which is cancel tooltip in curly braces, but I'm going to convert that to I'm going to scope to convert that to remove the curly braces, and then I'm going to look that up and make scope have that value. So hopefully this works. Save works. Nope, still says cancel tooltip. Let me see why that is. It should be, why is it saying it twice? If
we have two buttons, so it's one for the save button and the other one is for the cancel button.
Yeah, so let me make sure I just get all the values in here. Oh, this should be a 1. There we go. Okay. So let me remove all this and then go through. Make sure it works. No, why not? Oh, because I'm not passing value down here. There we go. There we go. Okay, now it works. So,
is there a way to simplify this kind of stuff so we provide the value or the read it from the scope?
Currently, no. And I don't think we would like want to provide the value, because to make this widget really work the way it should, we need to be able to listen to when this changes in the scope. So let's say instead of changing the tooltip later, we were going to change cancel. Let me say put this in a compute. Cancel tooltip text. And let's say later I was going to change this to changed. Okay, so to go through what well, let me talk through what I just did. What I was doing previously was I'm getting the value of the attribute. I'm checking if it has a curly brace. Then I'm removing the curly braces and then looking that up in the scope and setting the value to that. Now I'm going to pass a compute for cancel tooltip text. And after 2 seconds, I'm going to change the value of that compute. What you would have to do here is instead you'd want to get a compute based upon this scope property, or the value you're looking up. The value would be the compute. Make sure this is working to there. Okay, that's good. but you would have to listen to when that compute changes. And when it changes, you would want to do this same kind of updating. It will not let me tab that over. But in this case, you would get the event and the new value. So hopefully that works. Changed. Let me do a save just to make sure it okay, it works. Now this again is not memory safe because we're basically going to be leaking this compute. What you would have to do finally is also bind to the removed event happens. So when this, you actually really want to bind to when the attribute was removed or the element itself and tear down this event handler. But that is a discussion for another day. But this is what, I'll post on the slides a full worked up version of this tooltip, what it looks like. But I just want to give people an idea of how you kind of wire these things up if you're going to do it manually yourself. So any questions? Doesn't sound like it. I also forgot to mention that I'm drinking my can juice. I got a Vitamix and I'm blending juices in it. Cool. So any other? I think there's some stuff in the questions. Mike said he wants to have my thing stuff equals stuff and have Chris, if you're still on this, you have to click the kind of answering this question button, and have stuff be added to my thing's scope. If my thing's scope is a plain object, it works. If it's a can map, it doesn't work. If you're in Mustache, that should already happen. I really like to see a demo of that not working. If you're in Stash, you have to put a curly brace around the value of the attribute. Oh, thank you for the jQueryUI is missing. Yeah, astronaut tag, and then Mihael's stuff. So yeah, that's it. Any other BITOVI news that we want to discuss, Mihael?
I'm not sure.
No? Okay. Let me quickly. So BitHub stuff, as people have been noting, has been going out. Let me take a quick look at there, see if there's anything cool that's happened. Oh, the air pair. Someone else is looking for CanJS help. People have been asking to add can list, add define support for can list, which definitely has to happen. I think that's about it for new news since last week. Yeah, cool. All right, well, thanks for joining. I'm not sure what happened to Tom, but a big thanks to him for joining us and sharing what he's been working on, and Mihael for you to share your file uploader.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. All right, until next week. We're going to be doing these every week. Actually, we're skipping next week, and because it's 4th of July, but the week after, we've got Dan Connor is going to be sharing some stuff with us. I think it's going to be about can model, and it's going to be we might talk about can connect, which will be pretty cool. A lot of people have been asking how to make a better model, and there are some issues with inheritance, so we'll be getting into that in 2 weeks from now. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.